farmers, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Country, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia, for Liberia, Liberia, for Liberia, yeah. From Monday to Sunday, from Monday to Sunday, it's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
No,
Why didn't you go to work?
so I can be here.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Focus on Liberia show that's relaying on Kia Radios at 95.9 FM tonight. I have yet with me our humble Dr. Fidel C.T. Budet. You can go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Thank you for having me, Anthony. Always good to be here. Great, obviously, to have Mr. Dukley here and George on set in Monrovia. So looking forward to a good show.
Thank you. And then I have here with me our Islamic scholar, A. Boakat Dukley.
Thank you, Anthony. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And we have in the studio tonight with us George Gouet. George, you want to say hi to the people or no?
Okay, folks. So it's good to be here again. To produce Focus on Liberia. It's good to be here this evening, and let me say welcome to all our listeners out there. All you need to do is just tune in the Care Radio 95.9 and listen to the program Focus on Liberia. Today going to be interesting with your host Anthony.
Thank you. I'm your one and only host, humble man. I consider myself a Gen Z. Well, I am a Gen Z. Anthony Russell Jr., and I'm a founder of Twitter Talk Liberia and also Liberia Tech Network. So tonight with us, we're going to be discussing several topics, trending topics ranging from ghost worker scandal at several agencies in the Liberian government. And also, we're going to be talking about duty versus desire, right? We have an issue with, there's currently an issue with private jets. Our presidents are taking private jets from the past administrations, and we're just trying to figure out what are the essence of the private jets, what are they yielding to the public of the people, and are they bringing in any developments that's going to improve the people's lives? We have also framing allegations with the current news about the fire at the Capitol building, and there's a witness that's accusing the government of Liberia of bribery. We're going to dig deeper into that, and we also have schools in River G in several other counties. We have schools that are actually being closed down because no teachers are available. As well as when you look at the pictures of these schools in these counties, you see that they have no infrastructure to actually learn. And we have another corruption case with us today at telecommunication at LTA. The head, Abdullah Kamar, He is being accused of a corruption that actually went on at his last workplace, and he is actually being suspended right now by the president of Liberia. Okay, so we're gonna get into this topic one by one today. So I love to touch on the ghost workers scandal. You know, you have over millions of taxpayers' money being, scandaled at several agencies that have been reported for ghost workers. But we want to get into the definition of what a ghost worker is. So we have a guy, the CSA head, Josiah Jokai. He concluded on an investigation that several other ghost workers have been found at several agencies, I think 3 agencies. But I'd just love to dive deeper into the meaning of ghost worker. And I'll give Mr. Jimmy Eastman, to introduce himself and give us a detailed definition of what a ghost worker is when we talk about ghost working, what is being found at several agencies.
He knows all about ghost workers.
What are you insinuating, my friend? Okay, so as the word implies, first I'd like to say good evening to our audience. We're happy to bring you the latest news of the hour for our beloved country. As you know, somebody got to keep everybody on their toes, and we try to be unbiased and tell everybody if they're doing wrong, they're doing wrong. So a ghost worker, as it implies, is somebody's on a payroll, but they're not actually working. Their name appears. So people use ghost workers to extract funds from a payroll. So somebody, when those checks come from finance, somebody picks up those checks and cash them. They cash them, and this scheme has been used many times, and we try to curtail it from time to time. We always hear about it, but it seems to be a favorite tool for people who want to clandestinely take money from people. Even when people who have passed away, we see their checks still going through, and those are some of the ghost workers that we have to guard against. We heard about teachers. You just mentioned schools not having adequate teachers. We have heard so many times that teachers were on the payroll and they were not actually working. So that's the sort of thing we talk about when we say ghost workers. I hope I did it justice.
Yeah, and just to stay on that topic, I would love for you to dive deeper into, what does this say about the current accountability system in Liberia right now with this administration that chose to fight, things like corruption, especially with ghost workers. There was also another audit the beginning part of this year that stated that a couple of thousands of ghost workers were also, found at several other ministries as well too. So is this because we always found the ghost workers, but what happens after is another discussion, or is a discussion for another day. So what does this say about accountability with the current administration?
Yeah, very good question. Because if we remember that when the administration first took over, Josiah was going through the payroll with a fine-tooth comb. He was checking everybody, and to make sure the people were actually on the payroll, they were actually salaried the right way, and several people were understandably were removed and fired. So to hear now that there's still ghost workers on the payroll is alarming. After when you think they did their due diligence, and it's not very difficult to do. When they were going through the inventory, they asked people to come and bring their identification, unless they will be removed. So how come there's still ghost workers on the payroll? There's something amiss, and I hope they get to the bottom of it. But it should not be this difficult.
Thank you. Mr. Boyka Dukley. The issue with ghost workers has been happening for a long time in the Liberian government, and there isn't anything that's really being done about it. What does this say to you about the current administration and how it handles accountability and corruption?
Actually, before I even delve further into your questions, I wanted to sort of expand a little bit on what Jimmy just said. So this ghost worker, it takes so many forms, and I think it's very important that we sort of break it down a little bit. So you have different levels of ghost workers. You have what they refer to as fictitious, ghost worker, which is something that in reality doesn't really exist. It's just a made up character, made up personality, and put on a payroll. He or she doesn't exist in reality, right? And the purpose of having a fictitious ghost worker is to siphon
Is he freezing or is that my computer?
Yeah, I think it's good.
And I was frozen here. Sorry. So the purpose of a fictitious ghost worker is to siphon money from the system wherever they exist. And also there is another category, which is actually real individuals. People actually exist, but they don't know that they are being used to siphon money. In other words, they are not part of the scheme, but somebody is using them to get a salary. And the last one would be a deceased person or a former employee who worked to this place. He's no longer there, or he's deceased, and yet he's still on the payroll. Now, this question has been with us from time immemorial, and there has not been any serious efforts to actually curtail it or to stop it, because I think it's something that can be stopped. It's something that can be dealt with once and for all. But I think there is not the leadership, the requisite leadership that can deal with it, because really this ghost worker thing here, what it is to bypass the system put in place, like the check and balances that are put in places to curtail corruption. And so this ghost worker thing will circumvent, because usually in order for you to have ghost workers function, there has to be somebody in the system that facilitate all of this. In other words, somebody within the system that is responsible for payroll. Look, I work for a school board. We call them your school divisions, where we have close to 10,000 employees. Okay, one agency, one school board with about 10,000 employees, and we all got paid equally. Nobody missed pay. Nobody was mispaid. I mean, it worked seamlessly with no glitches, with absolutely nothing. This is just one small school division with 10,000 teachers, the counselors, and whatever. So there is a mechanism that can put an effective end to this, okay? But you have to have someone who will muster the courage that it needs to put an end to this. Josiah is head of the Civil Service Commission, but I don't think the Civil Service Commission alone can do this, because you see the way our pay system in Liberia is kind of a crooked, where you have every ministry get their payroll system, and then they will form their budgetary allocation from the Ministry of Finance, and then send it to finance for the payroll to be processed and sent. I mean, there is a way that I don't know if we have more than 2 million people on the payroll, and even if we do, this can be curtailed. They can put an end to it, but you need to have people who actually want to put end to it. But there are people benefiting from this ghost worker thing here in the system, so they're not making the efforts. So all the categories that I just mentioned now, they all exist.
So do you think that there are people up the top chain that are benefiting from this?
Of course. I mean, that's a no-brainer. I mean, otherwise, if that wasn't the case, why has the problem not been solved? I mean, it begs the question: if no one in the top were benefiting from this ghosting, why hasn't it been solved? I would really like to know why hasn't it been solved.
Thank you, Dr. Fidel. we are seeing UP, youth group crying on Facebook about jobs, and then you have a ghost worker scandal about people being dead on payroll, uh, people that are not going to work, getting paid. What does that tell you about this current government, the administration, and how it deals with corruption and also accountability? Because this is not the first time that these ghost workers have been found, right? So, talk to us about that.
Well, I think there are a few things. And obviously I'm glad that you started with Mr. Eastman, because I think he touched on a point that I think is very salient, right? And that is when the Buakai government came to power, one of the things that they did so religiously or with such force and aggression was, oh, we need to clear all these number of people from EPS and this other one and this, and people at the time claimed that, oh, they were just going after people that CDC had put on the payroll, and they were trying to just purge the payroll and not really do a comprehensive assessment of the payroll systems, as Mr. Barkai so clearly articulated, across the country to then say, okay, let's harmonize it so that it's easy to monitor, right? That would be a starting point. Instead of having separate systems for each agency or ministry, you need to have one system so that the CSA is able to then say to Ministry of Finance, let's look at a system, and it can be done quite quickly because they understand the structure. But I think where I want to push back just a little bit on Honorable Dukley, and let me just clarify quickly. I've mentioned an iPhone twice, right? Uh, just for the public to know, on Sunday we were on a talk show together, and we were talking about Father's Day, and he had received a brand new iPhone as a Father's Day gift. So every time he has a technical problem, we say, "Oh yeah," he goes, "I owe me," and I say, "Oh, you know how to use the iPhone well." So basically, so at least people understand the context of why I'm teasing it. But he takes it in good faith, and I like that. Thank you. But no, I think there are different layers to this situation, because it's not just individuals in government, right? Because when President Sirleaf came to power, for example, one of the things that she brought in that we were all applauding at the time was that people were going to have direct deposits as their pay, right? You weren't getting checks anymore; it goes into a bank account, right? But the problem still hasn't been solved. In fact, it's probably even worse. It's like, oh wait,
Yeah,
so the person has to go to the bank to withdraw their own money, but we
yeah,
still have ghosts going to the bank to withdraw money, and that's why
yeah,
you want to take it outside of government for me, right? So since Mr. Eastman and Mr. Dupe have dealt with the governmental side of it, I think we have to come to the private sector, because the banks are culpable, or they have a culpability in this problem that we're having, because
yes,
individuals within the banks are cashing or withdrawing money for people, knowing fully well that these individuals do not exist, right? So, for example, if you look at a bank branch in Peeble, Maryland County, for example, that branch manager will know the head or the whatever and district education officer or whatever. So the district education officer tells him, look, there's these 50 names on here, right? I will come and collect all of their salaries when they get paid. So basically, they fill out the slips together, sign off on it, get stamped, boom, he gets his cut or she gets a cut. So it is not just within the government. So even if the CSA decided, and just taking the point that Mr. Dukley made about this institution that had 10,000 employees, that institution has a very sophisticated computerized system for checks and balances.
yeah,
Even a CSA building in Morocco, if I say executive mansion gets sophisticated like a computerized system, let alone the entire government, right? So how do you account for someone in Riverside County where putting in library English, I can't even reach, right? How do you go and monitor those individuals and say, okay, the 25 people who got on here as teachers, here are the 25 individuals, because that's what the CSA is supposed to be doing, right? Because I believe the cost of sending people to do regular audits throughout the counties is way lower than the amount of money we are losing to ghost workers, right? So the cost benefit analysis that would have been done, and that's what you would have expected Josiah Joker to do. Okay, we have 50 million or 20 million that we believe is going to ghost employees. But if you're sending people around the counties on a regular basis, it wouldn't cost us 2 million. So it's worth it. Let's implement that. Let's send people to the counties, because unfortunately, because we don't have that central system in place, we have to go and manually, for some areas anyway, not all areas, for some areas, we have to go and manually check employees from time to time. And that's how you would do it, because you have to understand that, look, we don't have the system. This is how to do. But again, like Mr. Duku said, the will, that political will is not there because there are individuals that the minister knows that somewhere in Plivo, one of his district coordinator is collecting 50,000 a month, and he is there, my man. Yeah, make sure 20,000 of that thing come to me. So obviously he's not going to clamp down on it because he or she is getting their cut as well.
Yeah, thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about corruption, we don't just mean that someone is stealing. There are tactics these people use, and you're understanding one of the tactics that that's being put to place here. It's called ghost workers. So, whenever you hear somebody say ghost workers, this is what they mean. They mean that somebody is out there taking money, cashing checks, pay salary, benefits on behalf of a particular person that has not been verified as a worker at that ministry. So Josiah Joka, he audited 3 agencies. You got Morovia Consolidated School System, the NCSS. You got the NAFA, National Fisheries and Aquaculture Authority, and then you got House of Representatives. So I want to pick on one particular agency of these 3 agencies, right? Or group. You talk about the House of Representatives. These are the people that are supposed to be making the laws. So I'm trying to understand, how is it that the people who are supposed to be making the laws are the ones that can't even track their own employee system? What kind of laws are they putting in place? Because this is happening right beneath them. So what kind of laws are they putting in place for them to stop? Because now they are aware of these things. They cannot say it's not happening at the House of Representatives. It has happened. They know about it. So what should the House of Representatives now then do to put in laws to stop or even prevent these things from happening? Or even if it's happening, they should go the further ground to persecute these people, to make sure that these people are persecuted. So I'll further that question to Mr. Dukley.
Well, all of this has to do with the internal mechanism that you need to put in place to deal with that. And I think Dr. Budi rightly touched on some of those ideas. So take, for example, the legislature. At the end of the day, they all get paid through the CSA established system. Now, within that system, remember, people in Liberia get paid monthly, once a month. So that gives you enough time to actually do the necessary adjustment needed before the pay is ready. Let's say you have now this has to be an internal system within the CSA where there will be a department that is responsible for only the counties, so 15 counties. And within that department, you have 15 employees, and each individual is responsible for a particular county. Now, and again, this is within the CSA general system, but within that system, you have a breakdown, subdivisions within that same system. And then you come to the legislature, because the legislature is one, it's all one place, the Senate and the House. Then you have a system or a division that is tasked with only the legislature, right? And then you go to MCSS, Monrovia School. So you sort of put them apart that way, so that you have a budgetary allocation for all of them within the CSA management system. And then the 30 days interval that you have, that's when that's the time frame you use to do your check and balances. Meanwhile, you would have already gotten the names of the employees from the various department. So after thoroughly checking and making sure that who's supposed to be there, they are there. I'm talking about the paying system. So to compile their names requires a very, very rigorous check and balance within each department. Say you go to the Ministry of Agriculture, you want to make sure whoever is on the payroll that actually works there, actually needs to be there. Now, and I'm saying this with the CS after you have done all the checks necessary, so that you can effect an accurate payment system that will have no ghost name there. Now, sometimes I will agree that you might not be able to 100% eliminate this, because if someone was there, they retire, or they were once a former employee, that might be a little tricky. Okay, but again, there's still a way that you can deal with that. But the fictitious one and the other one, you can completely eliminate them, because, like I said, they are made up. They don't exist in reality. But you see, when someone is deceased, and the time when the person was we're working up to the time they're deceased, there is a period where some documentation needs to be supplied, like a death certificate and all that, right? I mean, and given that the way things work in our country. But again, at the end of the day, it boils down to the willingness to want to see this done. We really want to make sure that we get to the bottom of this. That's where I think things are really, really difficult, because the people at the legislature, if you give them the chance, they will want to increase their salary. They will want to add to the perks that they are enjoying now. So we can't depend on them, because they themselves, they are the beneficiaries of all these, bad system that we have in place. Because at the end of the day, we get to pay them this huge salary. We got to pay them benefits that they don't. I think, in my opinion, I don't think they deserve. So, the CSA is just one big element, but you cannot have CSA working effectively in isolation. Meaning, CSA cannot effect those control that I just talked about without these agencies also doing their due diligence in their HR departments. So it needs to be a coordinated system that pour into the CSA system, so that you can, from every department, you have a control system that check and make sure that whatever name that has been submitted to CSA actually exists, or actually is supposed to be on the payroll, right? So, and I'm saying this based on my experience. I work at the University of Winnipeg here, and you have so many departments at the university, but all of us, we get paid from one centralized system, but that centralized system is usually fed by every department. So you have someone who coordinates my department. I'm in the Department of Education. So my department makes sure that whatever name is on the list there actually exists. So you have an internal audit department that makes sure everything is controlled there by your social insurance number, by your date of birth, and other and other way of identification. So we don't have that in Liberia, but we can actually deal with the individual who don't exist. We can eliminate it. But again, like I said, it does require political will. It does require somebody who will bring this unorthodox way of thinking to deal with these things. Otherwise, we have been dealing with this thing from time. It's not a new problem, by the way. So I mean, it's just mind-boggling that we are in 2025 and we are still talking about ghost work on our payroll.
Can I just offer something quickly, right? I think all of the things you're talking about, Mr. Dukley, is not unorthodox. These are normal things that we're doing across the world, right? So don't make it look like if they start doing it in Liberia, then whoa, they just invented something nice. But this is where I want to land the point I want to make is, look, I've always advocated for taking the waste from the top, right? Because all of the things you're talking about, Mr. Dukley, right? One of the biggest reasons why we're unable to implement most of the laws that we have is the people who are at the ground level, the frontline staff, are being paid $120 a month. And they can see the guys at the top collecting $2,300 in gasoline alone, right?
Yeah.
If you pay people at the bottom a minimum of $300 a month, which is doable, if you take all the waste from the top, that gas slip, scratch card, paying representatives $8,000 instead of $2,000 a month, and then put that money down, the HR guy in NAFA will be more diligent, because he's not collecting $150 anymore. He's collecting $500. So one thing, he won't lose a job, but $500 is a lot of money. I won't lose my $500 job. And two, he understands now there is an incentive to work. And until we can incentivize the people on the front line, all of these ideas we're coming up with will not work.
Yeah, I agree.
And also, I would like to add, we need a data system that collects real-time data. When someone goes into work, they clock in, an HR department gets that they are into work. They clock in that entire week.
Yeah.
And we can verify with their manager that, okay, this person was there. They was there, they clock in. We got them. If we need to do any extensive research, we can go to that department and, and contact their coworkers. But Liberia, as it stands right now, we don't have any real-time data collection. So what we're doing is he said, she said, they said, and I said. So
No, no, but I think let me push back just slightly. We do have it because when I was in Liberia 2011, I used to work at IB Bank, right? And we had a signing in system. So the HR department had a signing in system. So when
you
people
say
joined the bank,
bank, right?
yes, at the time, not now, at the time, right? No, I'm just saying it exists in
It
Liberia. I
exists,
wanted to mention it, yeah. But what basically the signing sheet is there, and I think everybody had to be in by 8:30. Only the managers could come in later, right? So,
Mhm.
but every employee had to be in before 8:30 or something like that. So there's a signing in sheet at the entrance. Everybody signs in by 8:30. The HR person comes and collects the signing sheet and take it upstairs, right? The next day there's a new one down there. But again, the pay was higher than what people in government are making. So someone who's working in that role wants to do the job because they know the negative impact of losing that job, right? If I don't collect this sheet on time, I'll lose this job, which is paying like 300 or 400 a month. And that's why I think incentivizing the people, you will see it, my brother Anthony, you will see HR departments working so efficiently in Liberia. So I'll be surprised if people paychecks were significant, a living wage, right? But you pay somebody $120 and then you take tax from it. By the time they may get the money, like $100 left, they can't even buy bag or rent, pay rent. So what do you expect? You will look the other way and let people continue to have those needs.
People will still look for a way to steal. My experience is that people, no matter what you give them, if there's not any strong punitive measures in place to discourage this behavior, irregular behavior, dishonest behavior, then they will do it. So once you put punishment in, and people are punished, people lose their jobs, people have to pay back these sums, then you will see people will be discouraged. But again, we've been singing this song. It's all about enforcement. You have to enforce it. You can have any kind of policy, but if you don't enforce that policy and then you don't put the right mechanisms in place that will help you enforce the policies, it's going to be futile. So we losing money. We're bleeding, and we need to plug the holes.
And I mean these are millions of dollars, like a agency like the MCSS, that's about, I think about 900 people were audited, or 700 people were audited, and only about 80% came back to as verified workers on there. So think about the remaining people that are left, in the waters. And now Josiah Jokai is saying, this is the issue. These are the findings, and the House of Representatives, what will they do with this? Or the executive or the other branch of government, what are they going to do with these findings, right? So that's another issue for another day.
Anthony, I just wanted to add something that Dr. Bodhi said. You see, the bank is within the private sector, and the bank, they do have their board that they are accountable to, and also the money. I mean, the investors who are part of that bank would not like to see their money go to waste. And so, first of all, people are well compensated for the work they do, and so it's up to you, the individual employee, to see value in that, and then try to do stupidity, like something crazy, right? That it's up to you, because then you are the one who's going to be without job, and they are well compensated. I mean, $300, $400 in Liberia, that's a good money, right? So the individual there will be inclined to make sure that he maintain that employment, right? And the way he or she maintains that employment is to follow the rules by the letter. So, but again, you can't pay somebody, I don't know, I don't even know what is the salary scale now, because Anthony, I was speaking to a nephew of mine that I put through school. He was just employed as a district education officer in Buffalo County, and he's been employed since I believe it was February this year. And he told me last week that it's only at the end of this month he's going to be on the payroll. So I said to him, from February to date, what happened with all the work you've been doing? He said, I haven't been paid and I don't expect to get paid. And I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, because my manager told me he or she is working on making sure that I get on the payroll by the end of May. So by the end of June. So for July 1st, I will be on the payroll. So these are the kind of system, these are the kind of things I mean, the internal thing. I know there are other things that are even worse than that is going on within the various sectors. And what you see with the employment, with a ghost employee, that is just the outcome of all those loose systems that they have in place. How can you have somebody working more than 3 or 4 months? They don't get paid. So the point I'm making to you, I don't even believe it. What he told that gentleman, I don't think it's true. Maybe he is collecting that gentleman money, and now you want to make sure by July 1st he got him on the payroll, so the guy will start getting his money. I mean, I don't have proof of this, but it's just me trying to understand how would somebody be employed from February and yet they're not on a payroll. I mean, what reasonable justification there is to explain this if it's not what I'm speculating now, you know?
I think that's very normal in Liberia. That's something that's very normalized to be in a government, especially when you're a lower level employee and you get employed for a couple of months. Your manager will say, "Oh, they're not paying today," or you go to the bank will say, "Oh, we're not getting it today," or you like it's just all these things that are there that the manager you see the manager will get paid,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But the lower level employees are not getting paid. So what does that tell you? It tells us that our system does not work. Our system is not being held accountable, and we have all these other issues that are surrounding us. When you have ghost workers that are getting paid more than the people that are actually working. So what sense does that make? But I would love to go into another topic, close out this topic. I think the solution on that topic is that we need to have leaders who will have the will to be able to put in the mechanisms of collecting real-time data, of collecting information, and also instilling policies that if anyone break these rules, these are these are the persecution. I mean, this is what you're going to be given. Either you're going to be suspended, you're going to be suspended without pay, or depending on how many times it happens, there needs to be some level of rules and regulations that we're instilling in our people and in these systems so that these things does not have to be an ongoing issue every time. But let's talk about duty versus desire. You have the president of Liberia, Joseph Boyka. He recently came to the media and he talked about his use of private jets. And there are instances where the president used private jets to go and for personal matters, right? We all know that he's used private jets to go to, not we all, but I know that he's used private jets to go to Ghana to someone's wedding, right? So he came to the public and he said that the private jet that he's using, it is out of duty and it's not out of desire. But this current government heavily criticized the previous government when WEA was using private jet. So, and WEA actually disclosed, that his private jet was a gift, and that's why he was able to freely use it. But when you're using private jet, it's not free to put that jet in the air. It's not free for that jet to land. Anywhere that jet is flying above any region, it's being, there are some commission that's going to. When you look at the fuel, you look at the driver, right? All these things are, when you look at the maintenance as well. We recently saw an issue with his private jet that landed, had a rocky landing. But there are allocation. There's a budget for these things. There's a budget as to why that jet is in the air. So, and his justification is that it is a duty and it's not a desire. I mean, I just want to know, what is your comment on this, Dr. Fidel? Do you see any investment that the president is bringing back into the country that justifies his use for this private jet as for you to verify and be like, okay, maybe this man, he's doing something and it's his duty for him to go and use private jet?
Well, well. Okay, this is what I'm going to start with, right? I think when you talked about it, I think I read somewhere today that he left the country today on a commercial flight, right? And I initially thought, oh, the president is listening to us, right? Because we're complaining. Why are you using private jet? But now that you mentioned that tire bossing thing, I think he's scared of private jet. And why are you taking commercial flight? I think private jet, the private jet tire can boss. you know, they
There's
probably won't stay around long. So I think he too thinking that he can go for 12 years, right? Even though he's almost 100 years old. But no, but to make it more serious, right? Look, I honestly have been thinking because I did post in our chat room today about that. And I have been thinking about it, right? I believe that there is some necessity for the president of the Republic of Liberia to use a private jet, right? I think if he's flying to say, like short haul ish, like Nigeria for an ECOWAS conference and things like that, for security reasons, I can understand. And not only that, but if you look at the route between Monrovia and Nigeria, you have to fly from Monrovia. I think you have to go Freetown first, and then Freetown to Accra. Accra, and that's too much for an old man like that, right? That's just too much landing and picking up. Because that landing and picking up thing can make your heart rate go up and down, right? So on those kind of issues for security reasons, I get it, right? But when you're going to the US, right, where Brussels, you take one flight from Monrovia to Belgium and then the next one straight to wherever, then no, right? You can use a commercial flight. Because again, it always has to be based on the cost. If you are traveling to the US and you want to take, in fact, no, let me rephrase that. You shouldn't be taking that many people with you in the first place, right? You shouldn't be taking that many people. You go, no, who won't harm the president of Liberia in America? You could go with one bodyguard and one secretary, right? If you're going to the UN, you already have an ambassador at the UN, right? So why do you need to take the Minister of Foreign Affairs? You have an ambassador at the UN, right? So you don't need the Minister of Foreign Affairs. You don't need what's his name from Moserado County, Darius Dillon following you. What he going to do? He's not the person who makes foreign policy for Liberia, right? He's just the press chairman on foreign affairs. So first of all, he needs to cut his traveling battalion down, and that will then means that you don't need a private jet because you're so many and you can't go sit down on a commercial flight or whatever. I'm glad that the tire bus the other time, and thankfully he survived. Now he's scared he won't ride private jet again, and hopefully the Liberian people now will start saving money because he will be driving commercial, right? On the other side as well, I think whilst he's traveling commercial, the rest of his other clowns need to go economy. You can't put them in first class with you. Right? You can't take 20 people and go put them in first class. No. If they're going with you, all of them put them in economy. Always go for the cheapest option. As president, yes. That one I get it. You can sit in first class. I have no issues with that. But all of the other clowns should go in economy class, right? And make sure you reduce, because once you reduce these things, it makes it easier for us as the public to give you some, cut you some slack to say, okay, look, he's trying, And I was hopeful today. I swear, I was so hopeful, Anthony. You came and burst my bubble. I was so hopeful that, the president has listened. And then now you mentioned a tire bus, and like, this old man just broke something on my eye. Cover my eye with something I couldn't see. Now it's like, whoa, there's a completely different explanation now. He's scared. He said the private jet, the tire working good. So no, I want you say no more. But those are my points. Look, reduce the delegation. The rest of them should fly economy. Simple as that.
Yeah, you have a country. Thank you. You have a country like Liberia that's ranked 145 out of 180 on the poverty scale, and you have about 20 people. And if you look at the budget allocation towards that 20 people traveling from, let's say, a country like Liberia to Nigeria or Ghana, that's a lot of money. When you have these people on these private jets, they have to be fed, they have to be taken care of when they go and land. It's not only just the jet alone, but when they go and they land, they have to be taken care of. Hotel allocations and all these things that have to be paid for. So it's not just about the jets. And then you talk about the jet, the maintenance as well. So the maintenance, the person that's flying that jet has to get paid. The person can go sit down in a jet and they're not getting paid. You think they will fly that jet correctly? Probably not.
Maybe I want to bust the tire the other day because he's not getting paid well. No, but can I make a small point on what you just said, right? Because
Yes.
one of the things I've been angry about, and Mr. Dukley works in, I think we talked about working in academia, because I was in academia for a long time. And when you work within in a university sector, when you work within a university as a researcher or a lecturer, and you have to attend international conferences, there's a central agent office within the university, right? And that's what GAC is supposed to be. That agency used to book my hotel, book my flight, so they
Yeah.
don't have to give me 5,000 as allowance to travel with, right? And say just bring receipt. No, that office books the hotel and send me an email. Even now, the organization I work for, when I have to travel to London for work events, they book my train ticket, they book my hotel, and all I get is an email with a PDF. This is the
Yeah.
hotel you're staying in for how
Simple.
many nights. This is the
Yeah.
airline ticket for you to fly.
Yeah.
5 cents doesn't come. When I travel, they tell you you can spend up to 25 pounds on food per day, right? Keep your receipt, bring it back, and then we'll Why can the government? These are rich countries. These are universities whose budget is bigger than ours as a country. But if they can manage people's money like that, they say, look, this is money that students are paying for the university to run. So we have to be efficient with it. If they can have a central office to manage that kind of thing, why can't GSA do that? The president is traveling, you send your list of people, GSA book the hotels, right? If GSA called, I can sit here and book a hotel in Ghana, right? If I want to travel and pay for it. Visa works everywhere. GSA
Yeah.
can get a Visa card and just pay
Yes.
for the hotel. So why can't we do that? Because that's another way that will save on all these waste. And then you make sure whoever at GSA, you book all of the economic ticket beside the president.
Yeah. Mr.
But
Eastman. Let me just go to Mr. Eastman first before I come to you, Mr. Duplin. Mr. Eastman, we're currently discussing on this issue about the private jet, right? Duty versus desire. But his duty justification is that he's using this because he's going for duty. Well, you're going for duty. We're not seeing no, investments coming back in, and you're taking in about 20 people, 25 people to you with you. You're all flying on our private jets. But majority of the Liberian people don't understand the amount of resources that are going into that, right? Because when you look at the national budget, there's a whole section there for traveling allowances, and that when they go out, there's allowance for them to eat, for the vice president office, for the president's office. So whoever he's taking, these amendments have to be made. There's a reason as to why there's a national budget. And when you look at that national budget, you will see a huge portion of that being allocated towards their travel outside of Liberia, that travel into other counties and things like that. So what does this say to you? Is it a duty or is it a desire?
Good question. I remember when that was one of the criticisms they had for Weah, former President Weah, that he was just flying around in private jets, making morale and yada, yada, yada. So to see today that, you have to justify the use of private jets, how do you explain your comments on yesterday? It's not very practical for a president to fly a commercial jet. The security issues and also their convenient issues. You're using an airline, other passengers may be there, they have to wait until you get off the plane, which requires a whole protocol. There may be people there to meet you, and so it is not very convenient when you're using it. I believe that though, you want it has to be included in the budget. It has to be forecasted how much travel you can do, and so that you stay within a certain bounds, and and also, as for the comment that he's duty bound, well, of course. I mean, what else are you supposed to be doing? You're not supposed to be leaving the country unless you're for representation. So one would think you are duty bound, but I'm not sure how you can challenge a head of state as to why he's using a private jet when that is the norm for presidents and heads of state. They always use and even if you're going to charter it, sometimes they charter a regular airline. It's still a cost of it. So I think what we need to do is get away from just simply condemning each other because we're not the one using it, then having to come back now and justify why are we doing the same thing.
But do you think
No,
that
Mr. Russell, can I ask a question, right? You know John McAfee, right? From Tanzania. You know that he always traveled on commercial flights when he was alive. And then I think President Sirleaf, did she not use commercial flights when she traveled?
Yes,
a couple of
she
times.
did.
Mhm.
She did.
I think all the time she traveled on commercial. I don't think she ever used
Yeah,
private.
Ellen flew a commercial.
Yeah, and she traveled a lot.
Yeah. I mean, there's some people who know how to use it, but I think there's some things we're not considering. What are the health conditions too of these heads of state? And I still think it needs to be analyzed and projected. Which one is better? You weighed between two. I don't think we do enough analysis to determine which way we should go. We simply shoot from the hip. But I see the use. It could be a balance in a way. Sometimes you use a charter plane, and sometimes you use a commercial airline. I think we need to put the numbers together and figure out which is best for the country, especially since we are strapped. But I think we waste money in many other ways, and that we need to stop the bleeding. We need to put systems in place that will not have waste, since we don't have a lot, and then we will be better prepared, to deal with some of the issues that occur during one's administration, that's why I think it's really the problem.
So I got a question. So you mentioned that you don't think that there should. I mean, there's anyone that can justify or that can stand up to the president and say, or in the government and say, hey, why are you using private jets? So should there be policies or a system put in place for ways in which we can eliminate waste when it comes to how many people we take on national trips or international trips, how many like what is the most effective way to use when it comes to either private or public. So should there be policies set in place so that the next president can come and say, oh, y'all don't know, you're not in my shoes. So when you're using private jet, you're not in my shoes. I don't know what I'm going for.
For morale. That's the last.
My question is, should there be policies and
systems? Morale.
Yeah, should there be policies and systems that are put in place to limit, how the country's resources are being exploited by the very same people that chose to say that they are going to, max out the benefits of the country?
Of course, you should have policies, because you see what policies are. Policies are guiding rules to help guide you, but they're not absolute. There may be, if what you really need to do is have it built in the budget. So if you need to afford a private plane, then you can opt for that. But like I said, we need to make a projection. We need to do some analysis on every undertaking we have, so we can come up with the best solution, so we can save where we can. But I don't really know, by restricting the head of state to commercial, that call has to be analyzed. And I do remember the president you mentioned. Yep. But when that private plane, was it a national airline? Because I do know East African Airlines was operating those days. I'm not sure.
No, Macavoli was just when he died from COVID, didn't he? So
Yeah.
It's not like, we're not talking about the 80s and 90s. We're talking about John Macavoli.
Yeah,
We're talking in the 2000s. He died from COVID. Yeah.
Magufuli died in 2023.
Exactly. So it's not like, oh, we're talking about dual time or Tolbert time or Tottenham time kind of president. We're talking about a Bwaka time kind of president, right? So, look, I think there has to be, to your question, Mr. Russell. Sorry, Mr. Duke, I know you're going to come in.
It's okay.
Like we mentioned, right? Like we mentioned, like in the UK, for example, members of parliament, right? We have an independent body that monitors their salary or sets their salary, that sets their travel allowances. So basically, they don't get, like in Liberia, they give you a travel allowance. No, you pay for stuff. If you have to travel for a meeting, you buy a ticket, and then you send your ticket to claim your money back, right? And they pay you back what you spent. They don't go and pay you. In Liberia, we have this idea that, oh, we will set a price. So they'll say, oh, we'll give Mr. Douglas $100 a day, right? Well, but Mr. Douglas ain't spending $100 a day. So Mr. Douglas going to sleep in a $20 a day hotel, and the $80 he put it in his pocket. Because at the end of the day, we just gave money not based on expense, but based on whatever we just come up with in our head. And that's where your policy has to come in. That look, if the president is traveling, right, and it has to come from the top. That's the unfortunate part about it. A president has to say to himself or herself, you know what? 15 people doesn't make sense. 10 people does not make sense. I'm a Liberian president. When I go to these big meetings, sometimes the other world leaders don't even know who I am. So who won't kill me? Who won't harm me? What's the security risk of a Liberian president walking through Brussels airport? That's no security risk, right? These places are safe compared to what we do in our feed there. So there is no security risk. How many people, Mr. Russell, if I put a question back to you, how many people across the world do you think will recognize a Joseph Boakai if they're not a Liberian? That will see Joseph Boakai walking with two people behind him in Brussels, and like, oh, that Liberian. How many people you think will know that Liberian president? Tell me. Exactly. And because the reason celebrities have bodyguards, the reason high-profile people have bodyguards is because they know everybody know who they are, and they are an easy target.
Yeah.
Nobody know you, Papi. Even the people in Liberia, some of them even know you. So why? What is the risk that Mr. Eastman is talking about? What is it that we're trying to protect? Nobody know you, right? So it doesn't make sense to be spending all that money. And again, a lot of these individuals, your press secretary doesn't have to follow you to Washington, right?
Not a senator.
Go on the phone. My guy, yeah, this is a statement I want to make. She read a statement from Liberia. She can read a statement from Liberia. You got to be in Washington to read a statement. But she will follow you. Then you'll get 10,000 or 5,000 at the expense. And people are dying because there are no drugs in their hospitals, right? People are dying because common things like dialysis machine. I checked the other time in the UK. I thought it was expensive. £800. You can get a dialysis machine for in the UK, right? They had to fly, or they have to fly from Jackson Edo to bring to JFK. People dying, and then you're wasting 10, 15, 20,000 on trips. Take a bunch of individuals that are already overpaid, by the way. They're already overpaid, and then you waste 40,000, 50,000 on every trip. And to them, they think, but that money could build a decent clinic in one district in Liberia and equip that clinic to a level that it will be able to save lives. Add a few more years on the lives of some of those people. No, they don't want to do it because these people, and it was on point Gonglo. I forgot his first name, not tier one. Our Gonglo that comes on focus on Liberia. He said, "Elite grab." That's the phrase he used to coin this. What's going on in Liberia is elite grab. So these political elites are creating the system as corrupt as possible to continue to steal the country money. Because when you take a bunch of people carry down for you on trip, it's just to put more money in their pocket, right? When you pay a private jet, I can guarantee you, Mr. Russell, if we do a deep dive, that private airline company, something coming back from there to somebody in Liberia.
Oh, for sure.
Exactly. That's why we always go for private jet. Because Brussels will not do kickbacks because they have systems, right? Emerald, I'm not sure about. But I know Brussels will not more likely not do kickbacks, right? Because they have systems, they have auditors, they have shareholders, they have in Brussels, they have a proper legal system. So they wouldn't do kickbacks. Hence, they're going for private jets because that way we pay 50,000 for each flight instead of 20,000, and then the 30,000 they share amongst themselves to the detriment of our people.
Yeah, it is bad when you have senators, You have representatives going on trips, going to council meetings. For what reason? Your county, you have never even seen your county yet. The bridge, it's rainy season, summertime. You don't. Some of these representatives and these senators, counties, then when you go to them, that districts, they don't got right schools. They're not leaving the country. But that's what my brother George said on here one time. He said that anytime a representative or a senator get a chance to go outside of Liberia, to run away from home and to go live, to go experience luxury somewhere else, they will take that chance. They will always take that opportunity and not take that money to go put it in their district or their county. Mr. Dukley, what is the solution here? Should there be any policy that are put in place to limit the travel or to regulate, what's actually happening? Should there be an analysis or a deep dive into seeing the amount of money spent? Because to put up a private jet is pretty expensive.
Well, this is not a new issue. It's not a new concern. And, the amount of waste that is within the very agencies, if you curb all that waste, or even I would say if you curb only 70% of the waste that exists right now, that money can do a lot of good things for the Liberian people. I mean, the waste that just exists in every department, if you put the waste away, if the government is actually taking that money in instead of wasting it, there are a lot of things that can be done with that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what people don't even realize, and I'm going to drill down on this angle a little bit more, the national security implication of a private jet. I'm not sure they even think of that. These jets are for individuals, rich men in one of these West African countries. They are friends of the president, or I mean, if the president goes out of his way to get, I don't know, $1.5 million armored vehicle to drive in Monrovia, has he ever thought about the security risk involved in flying a private jet? I mean, forget about that. I'm going to get to the waste part of it, but the national security implication, I don't think they ever consider that. With that said, somebody just mentioned right now on this very show that Ellen used to fly commercial, and she did. She flew commercial most of the time, if not all the time. And so, first of all, I would like to say, I don't think it's necessary that Joseph Walker is all over the place. No. Why does he have a foreign minister? Why does he have an ambassador? Or ambassador at large, and all these people that are supposed to be doing work on his behalf for Liberia. So really, look, I can tell you, I spent 10 years in Egypt, all right? And I can tell you how many times Hosni Mubarak traveled from Cairo to overseas in those 10 years. I can tell you the number of trips he made. I'm simply trying to tell you he made fewer trips. And so you need to make use of your foreign minister.
Mm-hmm.
You need to make use of your ambassadors. You need to you can create an emissary and send them for special purposes, And so you don't need this whole entourage. I mean, look, I consider this a junket. It's a junket, all right? They just want to get out of Liberia, go sightseeing, and come back. They're not going there to do something I just want to buttress a point here that Dr. Boddy said. And I'm going to be very dramatic about this, if the Republic of Liberia were to disappear today from the face of the earth, besides Liberia, nobody would know that there was a country that existed called Liberia. That's how unimportant we are in the globe, in the world. So if you fly SN Brussels and you are in Brussels, if not the Liberian, nobody will know that this is Joseph Boakai. So if Joseph Boakai needs to travel, if he must travel at all, he shouldn't go with more than 3-4 people maximum. You cut down costs, you fly commercial, and save money. But again, traveling is one of the mechanisms all these corrupt officials use to siphon money from the government, because they're entitled to pay them, they're entitled to stay in fancy hotels, and all the perks that come with traveling. So actually, traveling is one of their strategy where they steal money. You know, Dr. Booty just talk about, in academia, and that's what I said. I was being sarcastic when I said unorthodox, because we have come to normalize these crooked way of doing things as the normal way of doing things. Okay, so if you belong to any department, you're supposed to go for a conference. The travel department is usually notified way ahead of even you who are selected to go. That department is notified. They are told how many people are coming from every department, how many tickets they need, and my wife is also in education. She travels with her students most of the time, and she doesn't do nothing. By the way, her organization gives her a credit card with a set amount of money on it for contingency purposes. She doesn't spend it. She doesn't use the credit card, but her organization has a credit card in her name, right? It's got like $15,000-$20,000 on it. In the last 3 years, she's never spent a penny, but she has it. She carries it with her. So all of what we are talking here, the Liberian people have now put in place a mechanism that will cut down all this waste. We'll talk about this corruption. We've talked about it all the time, but I'm pretty sure that the people who are in power, they know the solution to some of these problems, but they don't have the guts because they are themselves beneficiary of this bad system. So they have no interest in making sure that they see this thing go away. Otherwise, why would somebody actually depend on traveling to steal money? Because it benefits them. Like Dr. Budi was saying. I mean, you have somebody who's going to book your ticket. You have somebody who's going to book your hotel for you. All you need to do, you travel. That's it, and go do what you are asked to do from your organization, right? Is this something out of the blue? Is this something unusual? No, that's how everybody does it. When you talk about best practice, that's one of the best practice. So because this institution that Buddy and I are talking about, they are publicly funded institutions. So they want to make sure for every public dollar that is spent, they account for it, and they have to account for it appropriately. And if a dollar goes overboard, the individual will pay for that $1. And so even the in my building, in the building that I am, the vice president for finance is within that building. So sometimes he comes down and say, "Oh, Abu, how was that conference? How many people were there?" And I say, "Oh, 3 people." So really? And then when I said 3 people, he goes, "Oh, I guess the money, right? They want to make sure they want to save money." So the thing we're sitting now talking about here, I expect us to be talking about South Sudan that became a country 2012 or 2011. They're still learning how to put in place mechanism that can save them money. We're talking about a country that's almost 200 years old, and yet they still can't put in place things that can. I mean, you know what? Normally, under normal circumstances, you would say you need to have a presidential jet, to jet the president and government official all over the place. But again, when you factor in our nation and where we have come from and all the things we need to do, it's probably not economically feasible, So fly commercial, reduce the number of people that go on these junkets, and save costs, save costs, and then so private and non-private, you saw when George Weah was even having a hard time explaining this friend in Burkina Faso who's playing. He was and now, today the shoes is on the other foot now. The same people that were criticizing George Weah are now the same people doing the same thing that were criticizing George Weah. So it has become a vicious circle where there doesn't seem to be any exit out of it. So, but again, for me, I see it within the grand scheme of corruption that they are trying to make sure that it remains in place, And so nothing is going to be done. No matter, we can sit here and suggest all we can. It's not going to move anyone to say, "Oh, you know what? I think it's about time we do this or we do that." They are not going to, because again, they themselves, they are the beneficiary of this rotten system that they have brought to our country.
Thank you.
I think, Mr. Russell, I think the president needs to hire me as his chief of staff for distractions, because I know how to create distractions, right? If you don't want the people to be talking about the private jet, it's easy. pay government workers more money. That's what I'll tell the president. It will distract them because if everybody got more money in their pocket and not worry about private jets.
Where money will come from?
Build 5 new hospitals in this place and that place. Cut the
Yeah.
representative their salary. That will
Yeah.
distract them. Everybody will be talking, yeah, if I pay my cut salary, those are high. Because if all of those things will happen, do you think we'll be sitting here talking about private jet? We'll overlook
No.
the private jet because we're thinking, yeah, okay, so he spent 20,000 on private jet. But look at the new hospital that was just built. So yeah, he spent 30,000 on private jet. But just look at how they slash the waste in government budget. Like 200 million has been invested in healthcare and agriculture. That's what I will tell him how to distract the Liberian people. That's all. If I ain't want to pay me, I'll do it for free.
And that's what make Liberia. That's what makes Liberia's kids very different, because you have all this stealing going on, and not one development that's even been in a blink of an eye to show for what's actually happening in Liberia. But we will dive deeper into another corruption case again. We have corruption at LCA. The boss Abdullah Kamara, who's been accused of misconduct of doing his time at Tama Corporation. There is financial misconduct involving millions in public funds, and Abdullah case was at Tama Corporation. That happened there. The corruption took place at Tama Corporation, but he is the acting head of the LTA. So something that happened previously at his old job, we are now employed somebody that is being accused of a financial misconduct. So what is that saying about this president that says that he wants to do everything? And recently he said it. He came on air and he said it. He said he's going to do everything in his power to stop corruption. But it seems like you're not doing anything in your power to stop corruption. But when you talk about it, you'll have people, the probably will act on it. He will do it. The probably slow, but he's sure. But I tell people a lot of times, Liberia is not a country to move slowly. We have people dying. Before we open our eyes the next day, we have a couple of people in the gutter, found dead in the gutter. We have people going to hospitals. We are seeing babies being born and put in plastic bags, being found in communities. Wrongful accusations by the police. You have a lot of people that can't afford bills at the police headquarters over there. There are a lot of things that are going on, and we cannot afford to be a slow country. We are too old to be slow. So my question here is that there is yet another corruption case that hits the public now, and this one is with LTA's head. He is the acting director, and Abdullah Kamara is being accused of a financial misconduct at his last job. So, with this being said, what is Joseph Boakai government really telling the public here? Because he promised to fight corruption, but now we're seeing that he's appointing people who are being accused of corruption. So, can we be okay with sitting down and saying, okay, we will wait until, and this is what happens but my point here is that when you have a system that is so embedded in corruption that it will take a couple of months or years before a corruption case comes to the public, when someone is already benefited from corruption, from the taxpayers' dollars, what does that tell you about Liberia? Because if he is found guilty of this financial misconduct, this man just sat in office and took money and took taxpayers' money. So we literally paid someone who is corrupted, and we didn't do the research, the extensive background and research to find out this information. What does that tell you about the current government, Mr. Eastman?
Yeah. The funny part about this, one of the concerns the LACC has is that his simultaneous leadership of a public regulatory body and a private company with interest in the telecom sector. This is a blatant, obvious conflict of interest, and that should have been, you know, you talk about the Balkan administration. I don't really blame the president directly. There should be a vetting process before appointing anybody to a leadership role within the government.
Does a vetting process exist in Liberia?
There should be. Okay, this is what everybody does, and if we're not doing it, again, you say we 200 years old, but we're still acting like a infant nation. You have to look into people's background, not just simply because they in your party, but this is an embarrassment when you appoint somebody. I mean, because remember, the president went to great lengths to remove those commissioners at the LTA.
Mm-hmm.
And so he is apparently trying to purge the LTA. And then you're appointed and they find out you have a $2 million scandal about you. And mind you, part of the alleged mismanagement was for a digital literacy program designed to empower Liberian youth. So, you not only that you take money, but this is supposed to advance our youth, create better opportunities for them tomorrow, so that the nation will benefit from their enlightenment. So it's really embarrassing when this sort of thing occurs. But the best way to avoid it, because apparently there's this investigation that's been going on already, is to vet a person properly and make sure he has a green light from integrity organization like the LACC, the National Police, or whoever is concerned with his activity, and before you put him as leader. Now, I think it's good though that regardless that the president took action. We've seen in other administrations, people were accused over and over again of mismanagement, and none of them were ever removed. They kept their positions regardless of the public sentiment. We saw that in the last administration. And so I think this is a good thing that he's doing it. And I just think to avoid the embarrassment like this, there should be a better vetting process not for the Senate, whatever, because that thing is it doesn't appear to be sincere. I hear them asking questions, but it doesn't. The questions they ask are not questions that they can get to the bottom of some of the questionable issues. But let his chief of staff or the Office of the Presidential Affairs, let them do proper vetting. If they have to have committees depending on who they're appointing, let them set up a committee and let them do from the proper vetting and find adequate persons. But this thing is a good sign. At the same time, it's kind of embarrassing.
I will. I mean, I am the host, but I would like to disagree with you. I don't think that this is a good sign because Abdullah Kamara, with that, thank you for mentioning the 10,000 digital literacy program. There are reports about corruption going on, and I am positive that the president knew about it because he went on the pulpit when he did his speech of the State of the Nation address recently, and he mentioned that as one of his primary achievements. So there is no way possible that a president can go and mention something as a primary achievement when it's been in the news about corruption, and you then go and appoint the person that had this literacy program as the LTA boss. What does that say about you, Dr. Booty?
Well, I do have a lot of respect for Mr. Eastman, right? But I'm going to disagree with him today on levels I think I've not done before. Because first of all, I think you're sounding, and I know I'm just saying this to be for fun. You're sounding like one of these talk show hosts who have been called already and promised a job, so you don't want to say anything bad about the president because you know your job in the pipeline, right? That's basically how you sound, right? Because first of all, let's just take it back a little bit because some of us have been here for a long time. Grisby, who is, or Grisby, or whatever his name is, who is the presidential minister of state for whatever, went to NASCOP before the president even took office and collected thousands and thousands of dollars from there for the inauguration program for President Boakai with no accountability whatsoever. He wasn't a government official. He didn't have the authority. We've called on this show multiple times for Grisby to be investigated. President Boakai can Aleph, he gets some wax in your ear, he can hear it, right? So that's one case where he has done nothing. So when you say, oh, at least he's doing something, Secondly, this president went and tried to remove individuals who are tenured at LTA. These people went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, Mr. President, you cannot remove these people because they are tenured. He said, okay, I'll come and investigate them for corruption. So he suspended them and asked GAC to conduct an investigation. What I would love to see now that the investigation had caught his own man, that he will reinstate these people and take his cronies from there, right? Because at the end of the day, this is what the GSC investigation has now concluded. It didn't name any of the people they suspended. So far, I've not heard anything about the suspended commissioners being named in this GSC report as being corrupt. The reason they were suspended in the first place. So he violated the Constitution, disobeyed the ruling of the Supreme Court to put this guy in there, knowing fully well that there's no way you don't know that this guy is corrupt.
My son will never.
There's no way that President Boakai can say, oh, I didn't know this man was corrupt. Look, the CSA's job is to vet civil servants, right? The president should have sent the names if he wanted to the CSA for them to vet these individuals. That they were not vetted is not an issue for me. The whole coming to the LTA in the first place is the issue. Because you've made it, you corrupted the system to appoint someone, and now, like we can say, like, bro, God now see you, right? That's basically what it is. God move from behind you, because you broke the system. You broke the system to get your cronies in so that they can collect $3,500 a month just for their generator. Each of them, every month, collecting $3,500 for generator. And you say that is not corruption when Liberian people sleeping in darkness. These people are collecting $3,500 for what? So they can put gas in their generator. Are they working from home? No, they work from the office. So we're already putting gas in the office generator. Why won't I work from home? My company pays towards my electric bill because I use my electric bill to do their work, right? And that makes sense. But these guys work from the office. So why are we paying for generators that they're using at their home when they don't work from home? That's corruption, right? That is corruption. So the president is grounded in corruption. And I'll end on this point. When you are, I'll use a football analogy, right? I'm a football fan. You can have some of the worst players in a football team. If the team doesn't perform, they don't sack the players. They sack the manager because the head is always responsible. Yeah. Everything that is going on in Liberia right now, people will refer to as Boakai's Liberia. Not Boakai Dukley, but Boakai's Liberia, right? Because at the end of the day, he is the head of that Liberia. Everybody that dies, their blood is on his hand. Everything that goes wrong is on him. And guess what? If anything goes well in the country, that the same man will be praising. We'll not go praise Joker. We'll not go praise Kamara or whatever his name is. We'll say, wow, President Boakai government doing well. See what they did to LTA. He will take all of the praises. So when things get messed up, he needs to take the blame as well. This is all of his making. So he is entirely responsible for this mess. And what he's done is not even cleaning it up because the GSC report is out. So reinstate the commissioners that you went and suspended for no reason. You had no cause whatsoever. order them to put these corrupt individuals into office. Now it's backfire on you. And then Mr. Eastman, you're a diplomat now. You can't be talking diplomatic talk. Man, me, I'm not diplomat, me, a rebel.
No, Dr. Fidel, it's okay.
Mr. Ducle, what says you?
You know, again, this is just, it's almost becoming so redundant that we are repeating this. You see, one of the things that we need to do that will help us, I mean, it's not going to get rid of the problem, but it's going to help us. You see, this rule of law that we always take for granted is very important. Very, very important. Is an element of governance. When you have it right, a lot of things will fall in place right. You know, and if you have it wrong, a lot of things will go wrong because of the rule and law that is not working for the people and it's not working for the system. And that's why I can say with a straight face that Liberia is a nation of men and women, not a nation of laws. Because, like Dr. Budi said rightly, I think Boake was trying to refuse to accept the Supreme Court ruling by coming up with this phony audit thing that he was talking about. And that's why they said, be careful what you ask for. And now he asked for audit. And now one of the stalwart of Unity Party has not been caught in that same dragnet. He was trying to put the wrong people. And the saga, this corruption thing that blew up in LTA, it was through some procurement that this guy trying to orchestrate, siphon money from the LTA to the so-called organization that he's. I mean, it's what happened with the 50 years of experience in government. I mean, was Boake sleeping? Was Boake not aware of?
It was in the garage, not an old race car. It was dusty.
You know, what's wrong with conflict of interest? Don't we have conflict of interest rules in Liberia? And so, Anthony, this was just one of those very avoidable situations that could have been. I mean, it bothers me because it's not a sophisticated thing that require some hard thinking. No, it's just it's as obvious as the sun. And now Abdullah, who used to be one of the leaders of the Unity Party, he's now caught in it. Now, what is he going to do? I think it's very important, and I think this notion of suspension is another cosmetic way of addressing this whole serious issue. Fire him. Fire him. Stop all his benefits. If he's found not guilty, reinstate him. It's as simple as that.
Well, he's suspended without pay, though. So yeah,
it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter if he's suspended with pay or without pay. That doesn't really matter. Fire him, let him go, and let him face the full weight of the law. And this is, you see, people are not being deterred. That's one of the reasons why people are encouraged to do what they do, because they know they're going to get away with it. And so, and you and I know, if you commit a crime here, you are found guilty. You are going until the day you go to your grave, you will live with that criminal record. Certain jobs you will never get anymore. And these are some of the things that deter people. So for 200,000 business, I'm not going to ruin my pension. For 200,000 business, I'm not going to ruin my retirement. You know. So, but people are not deterred. And so Joseph Boakai is presiding over a corrupt system that he is heading. It's rotten from the head to the bottom. I can't describe it any more than that. That's basically what it is. He is presiding over a corrupt system, and he is unable to even make a dent in any area, in any sector of the government. Because everywhere you turn, there's corruption. Everywhere you turn, there's corruption. How is he even able to even govern? You know, it reminds me of Ellen Johnson, where when somebody pops up, she set up a committee to calm the people down. We never heard what the committee came up with, what was the outcome, and what was the punishment meted against the people who. It's the same thing. So he was a race car parked for 12 years, and I think he's still parked because he's not working as if to say the car is running. I mean, again, like I said, some of these things can be avoided. This is the reason. Well, you know, you bring in and It reminds me of what Jimmy always said. The technical know-how. Is Abdullah even qualified to be head of the LTA board of directors? What does he bring to that role that would benefit the Liberian people in LTA? Is it simply because he's an United Party stalwart? So our employment are not based on qualification, or I mean, it's just so, it's so disturbing that something like this we have to come on these platforms to talk about. This is so minute, it's so simple that we shouldn't be talking about this. But again, because of, like I said, look, the United Party, all the guys that are there now, they feel entitled. They feel they need to do these things because who knows? Maybe if Kun comes there, Kun will bring in his own lieutenant that are going to start stealing again. It's almost that they feel it's our turn. You know how the CDC used to say, it's our time now to eat. That mentality, that mindset that they have. And so you get sick and tired because, how can you be talking about corruption so much so that it consumes all of your energy and with no headway being made? You just going in circle talking. I mean, who knows? Tomorrow another corruption saga is going to pop up at the Ministry of Gender. I mean, are we ever going to see an end to this? I mean, Anthony, I don't really know what to say to you. I read the story, I followed the story, and I was just saying to myself, oh my Lord, another employee, appointed person is now doing the same thing. The Supreme Court said these people are tenured, and the tenureship is written in black and white in the rule book. And you come and say, no, I want to end their tenureship. So, I mean, where are we? Are we in the jungle? For God's sake. I mean, honestly, Joseph Boakai has not bring to bear his 50 years of experience in government in any way that anyone can say, oh, yes, this is the handwork of an experienced bureaucrat. Not at all.
Thank you. You asked where are we? I think we're outside our $1.2 million bulletproof car. Why the probably in the car? That's where we are right now. We're outside the car. He's in the car, fully well protected by his goons. A lot of allegations about corruption going on, and we outside. We have all the solutions, right? They have the solutions as well too, but who knows? They will never implement these solutions because they know that when they start to implement these solutions, it's going to take money out of their pockets, and that's something that they do not want to do, and they will never ever do that. But I'd love to close on that topic, and we'll want to move to our last topic of today. I'd like to talk about the framing allegation against John Yanti. So John Yanti he was in Ghana. I mean, when the Capitol building fire took place, he went to Ghana, and he came back from Ghana, or he got not extradited, but he came back from Ghana with the help or the consolation of the Liberian government because he was needed for further questioning, and they said that he was a witness. So he was actually when he came back from Ghana, he was put in a hotel in Tinker's Village. And he claims that the Liberian government offered him $200,000 to give some implications that Funati Kofa and other lawmakers were responsible or are responsible for the fire at the Capitol building. That was what he said. So in Liberia, $200,000 is not small money for somebody to give you to lie on a lawmaker for fire at the Capitol building, and you come and you tell the public and say that they offer me $200,000 in a Liberia like that. $200,000 is a lot of money. So what does this say about the integrity of the Liberian government? Because he was accompanied by other police officers as well too, and law enforcement officers. So he's saying that law enforcement officers offer him that amount of money. And what does that say about the Liberian government and the process of law or the regarding of law and regulations in our country right now, Dr. Booty?
Well, one of the things I've been calling for months is for us to have an independent person to take over the investigation, to assess the evidence against the suspects and make an independent assessment of whether or not it rises to that level of beyond a reasonable doubt. Because there has been so many, and I've had arguments with people who were close to the IG, who were friends of his, and I've had so many discussions with people trying to push back. Look, the IG went on radio and TV on the 6th of June and ranted. Most of it for me was political talk, right? From an IG who is supposed to be independent. He was sounding like a politician. Oh, we're on the UN Security Council now, so we got to do things different. That's politics, right? Do your job. Whether we're on Security Council or not, you're supposed to do your job impartially. Why should being on the Security Council alter the way that you do your job? Just do your job. Your job is to protect and serve the Liberian people, all of us, not just those in the Unity Party, right? But the IG said very clearly in his speech that, look, these guys, according to him, attempted to burn down the Capitol on the 10th of November, 2024, right? Police were called in, an investigation was done. So why then did the IG not increase the police presence around the Capitol building when somebody already attempted to burn the place down? So you sat your inept self there and waited for the 18th of December for them to come and burn it down first before you say you come and do investigation? And you want us to believe that you're a serious police person? Because I live in the United Kingdom. Some of you guys live in the US. Any serious police organization that has had credible intelligence that someone is attempting to burn down a government building will increase the security around that building. They will start searching people who are going into that building on a regular basis until the threat level has been assessed as non-existent, right? You don't sit back and do nothing and then have this. I don't want to use certain, but then you come and tell us that, oh yeah, we knew that they wanted to burn it before, but we didn't do nothing, right? And then you have the same IG saying 3 of the suspects individually said that they were tortured, right, by security services to implicate Fonatico. But when they say they bribed them, they say they BR. When are they even threatening to sodomize or whatever the person if they don't say that Konatiko? The IG came out and said on the 6th of June, oh, I assessed the thing and there's nothing there today, and I dismissed the case. I said to one of his friends who was arguing with me, I said, have you heard anywhere in the world where an accused person will conduct an investigation into themselves? Like, how does that? This is supposed to be our highest ranking police officer, the best that we have. And he's saying something as stupid as that I conducted an investigation into myself and found no evidence that I did the thing that they said I did. Like, seriously? Where's the justice ministry here? Where's the independent body that could come and investigate to give us confidence that the police is doing something well? And then you have Thomas Eldred, who was arrested on the 18th of December, kept in police custody for over 20 days, I think, without charge, when he is entitled, according to the Constitution, to be charged after 48 hours. If you can't charge him, you release him, right? But you kept him in prison all that time. That's a violation of his human rights. Where's the apology from the IG? That also taints the investigation. Where is the investigation into the torture allegation? That takes the investigation. And then you have a judge in Judge Willie, who, based on information I read in the Front Page Africa on Friday, had been sitting there. These are billable charges, right? There were bills put before him for the 3 suspects, and he won't sign it. So how do we not believe Yanti when he come and say, oh, they tried to bribe me? Even if the family saying 50,000 and he's saying 2, that's besides the point. We've already got enough credibility issues with this investigation that tells us that These people, because again, the president, I forgot, you know, I let it be, I let it go in all the thing. I forgot about her own thing. On the same day of the fire, the race car that been parking in garage for all these years came there and smelled the air, tasted it like that, and like, yeah, arson. I didn't even know the papa had that skill in him. I did not know that Joseph Walker had that kind of skill that he can just taste the air and just smell it and know it's arson without conducting any investigation. What did I do? It narrowed the outcome that the police could come up with. Anything you do, it must be arson because the president has said with his expert skills. That's the only fire investigator in the world that only need to smell the air and know it's arson. Maybe that's why he won't fly commercial. No, everybody in the world know that he got a special skill now, right? That he can just smell the air and know it. These people do these things, and I don't know whether it was you, Mr. Dupley, that mentioned the word that I've mentioned many times before: impunity. They know they will get away with it, so they don't care. Because the Liberian people, look, my brother, Mr. Russell, right? I was sitting the other day and I was looking at the United States and what was happening in California, right? These people went to go arrest, and again, what the police are doing now illegal, arresting illegal immigrants, illegal thing. But the people did not like it, and what did they do? They protested. They said,
When in
"No,
the street.
we
Yep.
are the government. You cannot do something that we don't like." But the Liberian people sitting on there, and until they can grow some whatever and stand up for themselves, trust me, these guys, not just President Boakai, George Weah did it, Ellen did it, Charles Taylor before did it. Every government would come and do the same. They would take them for a ride. They would die from curable illnesses. They would die from starvation because they're sitting there and watching these guys wasting their money on an investigation that shouldn't even be going ahead, right? Again, don't get me wrong. Something or someone burned that building on the 18th, right? We know that prior to the 18th, there was an electrical spark that led to a suspected fire. We know that after the 18th, there was another electrical spark that led to. I'm not an electrician because according to the police director, if there were electrical fault, then the building, current, we're not going to be going in the building. Like, that don't sound right to me, but you know that you're the expert if you know, right? At the end of the day, somebody has to pay for it, or something has to be responsible for it, right? I'm not saying that nobody should pay, but do the investigation properly. Allow us to have some credibility in the invest, so I can sit down here and say, you know what, the investigation was handled well. Funati didn't hit further inside. Funati didn't hit further inside. But right now, it is not being handled well, so some of us are questioning it. And that's why I want an independent person. I keep calling my man Tier 1 Gonglo. Let him get a thing to Tier 1. Let Tier 1 come in. Let Tier 1 be our owner, Robert Mueller, right? Let him come and assess the evidence and then decide whether the evidence and the way that it's being handled rises to that level. But brother, and let me end on this point because I know I've been talking for a long time. These guys sent 3 suspects to criminal court A in January. And then in February, they asked the court, can you give us some more time so we can go find evidence to prove our case beyond? Where in the world have you heard that nonsense before? That a prosecutor will go to court without confidence in their evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, and they will ask a judge. And that's why I think the judiciary is complicit in this. Because if any judge in the United States, I don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat, a prosecutor come in front of you and tell you, oh, judge, keep the people in jail, let me go look for evidence, you take the nonsense. They will dismiss it without prejudice, which means you can bring it back again when you find your evidence, but the man will be free in the meantime. Dismiss the case because that's nonsense. That's making a mockery of our judicial system. But the judges then say their hand in the thing too, so they said now that y'all keep the man in jail since February. Another 5 months, these guys have been in jail. Why the government looking for what? The thing can hear my hair sometimes says, I see why Elvis Morris decided to go rest his body sometimes because it can hurt.
Thank you. So more details on the Yantis, framing allegation. His family claims that he was supposed to be given $50,000 and also immunity, and that they were going to be provided travel, family relocation.
Settled to Europe. Yeah, they were sending it to me. Yeah, they were sending it to me.
But of all of that, of the $50,000, they only got $2,000 that they can account for. And not to only mention that Yanti's sister, John Yanti's sister, that's saying that they're trying to frame him so that he can implicate Kofa and other lawmakers. Someone in the family has verified that his sister just received a job in a higher level administration, position in the government. So with all these details, when you sit back, you analyze these things. What are you looking at here, Mr. Eastman? What are you looking at?
Well, yeah, I have to be positive. I don't want to be negative, and there's a reason why. But this incident is not just about arson. It reflects a deeper question about institutional credibility, political accountability, and judicial independence in Liberia. This thing gives signals in so many directions, and it's I don't know what to say. It's undermining public confidence, whatever it is. Okay, is Yanti a pawn that is being bribed? Because according to his family, they received certain amount of money there, but the IG said that his family approached them for a deal. And this is incredible. Look, some of this stuff, I don't know. You can't make it up. How would somebody approach the police, say, if you bribe me, I will give you this evidence, or I will blow the whistle on so and so and so. Where does that happen? And I mean, even if the way it is now, I don't know if anybody would want to believe it. And I agree with Dr. Booty. Why are you keeping people in jail? You're not ready to prosecute their case. Well, what isn't that injustice? Aren't you depriving somebody of their freedom and rights? So it is alarming that a simple case like this, cannot be adjudicated or investigated properly. I agree. I think we do need a
private entity.
Yes, I agree. I think I agree to that. We do, because the way things are going, it's a mess. So the best way to do it is to call an independent investigator and let him go ahead and talk about it. But why are we so inefficient in doing anything at all? Why is there so much of this? I cannot fathom why we're so bad off. I can only conclude one thing: we're not putting competent people in places, and if we continue at this rate, it will just continue being the way it is. This, a long time ago, when I remember when the PRC took over, they used to say that we are thing. In other words, the way we may be doing things wrong or making a mistake, but at least we're in charge now, so that we are thing. For us to be carrying on this attitude to today, that we will not do things correctly, it is alarming. It is alarming, and I don't believe that it's just pure incompetence. I think it's a lack of will. One of you guys, I think Dukley, he said we got so much lack of will. Why don't we want to do things correctly at all? Why? They catch somebody with drugs. They get a tip off for Interpol or CIA, whoever tipped them off. They get it full of crime in their hand. The people walk free from the court. Free. What is going on? We have to take a deep reflection, unless our future for our children. That's what I really think about. Well, what will we mean if we continue at this rate?
Thank you, George. If you're still there, if there are any calls coming in, You can help us announce the number. We can take a few calls if we can. We know that there's other program coming on, but before,
Okay.
yep.
Okay, so folks, wherever you are, if you are listening to the program, the numbers to call 0777 959 959 and 0881 871 670 and 0777 959 959 and 0881 871 670. The numbers to call and be a part on the show this evening. So, jet to get from your end, and once call coming, I will let you guys know.
All right, Mr. Ducle, can you close out on this issue? And we're in when we get further calls, we'll just pause you for a bit and hear from our people back home.
You know, Anthony, this is a very I don't want to say very difficult, but it just goes to speak to what we've just been talking about from the beginning of this show to date. Um, and what Jimmy was just saying, the police said is the family that approached them. But I mean, if you ask anybody in Liberia, nobody believed the police. I can tell you that for sure. Nobody believed the version of the police. Uh, uh, Gregory has zero credibility with the Liberian people. And from what I read in the story, the family agreed to take $2,000 as a proof, because if they say it without showing the $2,000, it's likely that the government might deny the such thing occur. And so it was on that base. I mean, based on what I read, I don't know how true is it, but that's what I read. So the reason for accepting the $2,000 was to prove that yes, the government was trying to bribe them into implicating Fonatu Kofa. Now, my take on this whole thing from the get-go is this, Anthony. That building, if anything happened to that building, no, even if an ant tried to crawl to enter that building, they should be able to see the ants. That's how that building needed to be secure. That is the heart of our republic. That's where our laws are made. It's just like the executive mansion, the protection. But the people that work in that building, they don't care about that building. They care about what comes into their pocket, period. Nothing else, like nothing else matters to them but their pocket and their pocket alone. Otherwise, that building should be secure in such a way that even, you have sensors all over the place. Even somebody approaches or a dog approaches, an alarm will blow. I mean, we've seen other parliament buildings, how they are secure. Are we not able to do the same thing? And we're talking about trying to establish who is the arson here and who. I mean, but again, there is a bigger picture here that I want us to look at. The decision has been made, and forgive me, I'm only speculating here. I don't have any hard fact to substantiate what I'm saying. But the kind of picture that I saw and what makes me to even speculate is this: the government has an agenda, which is the Unity Party government. They have an agenda. Not only that they wanted to make sure that Kofa doesn't survive this mess, but their own candidate that they push, they want to make sure that they muddy this guy so much that in any future endeavor in that house, he's not going to be part of it, because he knows all the dirty tricks in that building. He himself has been part of some of the dirty tricks. Look, politics is dirty, and Liberia is no any exception. So the government has its agenda to making sure that at all costs, Fonatu Kopa must be implicated and he must be found guilty. It's almost like the charge is like they charge you before they go look for the evidence. I mean, it's only in Liberia that we see that. Look, anywhere in the world, even how they have the 48 hours in a rule that you must charge the person after 48 hours being in detention, right? Mm-hmm. In the States, when you are charged, in Canada, when you are charged, before 24 hours, when you are forwarded to the court, evidence is there already. Even if the evidence is preliminary, but there will be evidence that warrants you being charged. So this is all a kind of a debacle that could have been avoided, and that's why I said that nobody. Gregory Cuomo has a track record of saying and doing things that are not proper. This is no exception. Seriously, I mean, by the way, this is Gregory's second term being IG. This is not his first time. He's been in this place before, so he knows all the tricks. He knows, he is functioning more like a politician than an inspector general of police, because he's carrying the line of the politicians. Not like a police officer who is trying to hold the law and implement the law equally. Why would you hold 3 individuals in detention for this long, and you have the other people all over the place? And even the manner in which they were detained, it just all called into question as to their intention, what they are trying to do or what they are trying to achieve here. So I have zero, and I mean zero confidence in anything that comes from Gregory Cuomo's mouth. So again, Anthony, this whole investigation is just so tainted with a lot of, it's tainted with politics, it's tainted with corruption, you name it. So, I don't think we're gonna get to the bottom of this as long as the government is part of this process. So, rightly, as Brother Dr. Budi has been calling for, you need an independent body that can come up with what happened. I mean, whether somebody's going to be held accountable, that's a different matter. But let's get to the bottom of what actually happened and who did what. Then we can decide how to proceed. But you can't be going on like this. I mean, I was even shocked that when they talk about this Yonti guy, he was living in Ghana. And I mean, it just, so what was the police doing? Did the police not know that this gentleman existed from December? Did they just find out that he was living in Ghana? I mean, Anthony, everything just called into question of how the police has conducted this investigation. Even now, if they are genuine in whatever they are doing, it'll be very difficult for people to accept it with all the faux pas that have already occurred. So I mean, I'm sorry, but they're just not credible.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, when you look at Liberia as a whole, and you look at Liberia in details pertaining to the agencies, the ministries, and the 3 different branches of government, there is just majority of people that make it so difficult for you to trust one entity. You can't trust the police. Okay, who are able to hold the police people accountable? Let's say the legislature. You can't trust them. The judiciary, you can't trust them. The executive, you can't trust them. You go to ministries then, you can't trust them. Directors then stealing. They're being suspended for corruption. You look at their past, their old jobs, they get existing corruption history there that has been going unsolved. They can't declare their assets. You go to agencies that are supposed to instill technology. They're stealing from our people. So when you look at Liberia as a whole, it's just confusing to digest. Sometimes our body can digest cow skin, but Liberia is worse than cow skin. It's a tough substance to put in your body for your body to digest. If you can digest Liberia, then you're from a different planet. Because these are the same problems that I've heard my parents have talked about. My dad has talked about. You guys have talked about that it existed during Ellen's turn. It existed during Taylor's time. It existed during Dole, Talbert, Tutman. What is going on with us? And then when you look at the people that's supposed to be holding, these people accountable, the government accountable, they're only waiting for their turn.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want someone accountable. I'm sorry, Mr. Duke. They don't want to hold these people accountable because they want to wait for their turn so that whenever it is their turn, they can be able to hush someone else's mouth and say, wait for your turn. And that's exactly what we are being taught as a young generation. We don't want to speak up. It's not like we don't want to sacrifice. We don't want to speak up because we know that one day we want that same power and we want that time. When we get that position, we'll be able to do things unorthodox. We'll be able to go against the Constitution, and we'll be able to exist and steal from the Liberian people and oppress our own people. So when we see all these things happening in Liberia, and we see how the government exists, what what does it really say about Liberia on a national scale, or international scale? Because when other people look at Liberia, especially Liberians who have gone outside of Liberia to go and get their money to go and invest into Liberia, they see Liberia as like, "Mwah, that country that I can go back to that country," because if you try to do things the right way, there are always someone that will oppress you, that will suppress you, that will deprive you of certain benefits and things like that. So, but it's a topic that we have every day. Every day we come here, we talk about corruption. There's not a day that I've come on this show that I'm not talking about corruption. When will Liberia have the decency? When will the Liberian government have the decency to say that we're instilling these policies,
Look,
and we're going to
look,
these policies to
uh,
make sure that these things work?
Anthony.
And I'll let,
Uh,
let you close on that, Mr. Dukley.
yeah, I just want to say, my brother-in-law, my wife's older brother, is the manager or director of environmental whatever at Firestone. One Dr. Herbert Harmon, and we talk from time to time. He said, "Duke, my problem with my staff is that they are so used to doing things the way they're doing it, they have come to believe that is actually the proper way of doing things. So when I tell them what is the right thing, they say, "Oh, that man there for America, he just thinks it because they are so used to doing things the bad way, they have not come to internalize that way as the right way." And so if you come and tell them other than what they are used to, they think that you bring some foreign, ideas to them, And so when I was saying, unorthodox, I was being sarcastic, but no, you know, I remember when I was growing up, Anthony, at the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, at the Registry of Birth and Death, there was a manager they called Mr. John Prowl, Prall, one John Prowl. With him, nobody will get birth certificate if you don't deserve it. John Prowl. Ask anybody in my generation who went to that ministry to get a birth certificate. John Prowl will not sign birth certificate for you because he was following the book. People hated him. People will find ways to go around him to get birth because they know with him you can't cut corners. So there are individuals within the system that are, they are patriotic, they want to do well, but they are just in a sea of corrupt individuals around them. They can't do it by themselves. And the system doesn't help them, you know? So it's unfortunate that 2025, we are sitting here talking about ghost workers in a nation that is almost going to be 200 years very soon, you know? But we can't do much about that other than to continue doing what we're saying, to point it out whenever we have the opportunity to do so. And, I want to thank you, Antonio, for job well done today. And I want to also say thanks to Dr. Booty and Mr. Jimmy Eastman for it was a very productive conversation today. Let's continue doing what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dukley. Mr. Jimmy, and then we'll go to Dr. Buddy.
Yeah, sometimes it's discouraging. I think Dr. Booty mentioned how one of our colleagues, he just got frustrated with the lack of progress. Yes, it is frustrating that we don't seem to be moving the needle at all, and it's as if the conscience of our leadership has flown out the window. But I want to encourage Liberians in one way. We can do it. We are capable of making that country great. But it will have to be everybody follow the rules. And because you my partisan, because you my friend or my buddy, I will let you go. That's not going to fly. We have to accept the rules we chose to live by and honor it. Until we're ready to honor those rules, we'll always be struggling. So it would change. One of these days we would get fed up. But for now, we take it to the Lord in prayer.
I like that. To the Lord in prayer.
Thank you, Mr. Eastman. Doctor?
Yeah, I don't think God answers prayers from Liberia. I think
I
he's
brought him
muted.
here
He's
for making
muted.
up a little to not sleep set.
Yeah, he's muted his WhatsApp notifications from Liberia. So when we send a message, you can't hear the phone ring. So we on our own. Look, at the end of the day, any Liberian who has an interest in seeing Liberia become better, I don't care how frustrated you get, because I do get frustrated sometimes. You still come back to try and argue for a better Liberia. We've seen in Burkina Faso what can be done when you have the right leadership, right, in the space of a few months. And we need someone or a group of people who will have that kind of mindset for country to come in and say, you know what, we're going to cut out the waste. We're going to put in better systems. We're going to appreciate the people at the lower level for the work that they're doing, incentivize them. And then they can't complain when they get sacked for being corrupt because one, we're paying you decently, but we're also putting in place the rules and regulations to check and balance and monitor what's going on. I think those are the two things you need to, well, three things: cut out waste, pay the people better, and then put in the right systems to monitor compliance to these various. And like Mr. Eastman pointed out, you need to start sacking people, sending them to court, sending them to prison, taking properties that they gain through nefarious means. And once other people start to see that, oh, so this is what will happen if I do it, they wouldn't do it. You know, there's a French philosopher that I'm very fond of, Michel Foucault, and Foucault's mindset was, look, the reason that we act the way we act is not because we're good people by nature. It's because we're afraid that we will be excluded in the social network if we act a certain way. So, like, we're all friends in here now, and the norm is to act like this. If I start acting outside the norm, you will exclude me from the social sector. So I
Yeah.
act like the way you want me to act because I want to be a part of it. Right now, there's nothing in Liberia that excludes people when they act bad. So people will
Yeah.
continue to act bad
Yeah, actually,
until we can start
yeah.
excluding them, putting them in prison, taking away their properties. You know, can you imagine the president went and appointed Sandra Johnson for threatening to cost people because they say criticize the president? And they appointed Grover Musu Scott. Again, she was acquitted, yeah. But the fact that this person was charged with murder, was convicted by a jury and sent to prison, right? Yes, she was acquitted, but optics don't look good, right? You can't be appointing someone like that to government. And plus, she served enough. You know, she's really done her service many years, plenty. I'll rest. There are young people who can do this. But again, we keep going around in circles, but we'll keep talking. You know, some of us, suppose that's what people do. So start telling someone, oh, we get what to do. You know, but we'll be coming here and talking until hopefully, you know, at least I was hopeful today that my talking about private jet changed his mind, and then Anthony King burst my bubble. But I'll sleep well knowing that at least he rhymed commercial. That's most important for me. And thank you guys very much. It's been a great show, and look forward to the next one.
Thank you. Thank you guys for being here today. You know, allow me to be the host. I appreciate you. And my message to the people is that we all have jobs, we all have work, right? We come on this show to inform you and to bring you a different perspective and to actually make you to think. We don't come and sit here to just discuss Liberia. We come and sit here so that we can bring awareness to the issues. And by bringing awareness to the issues, we're making you to be informed that this is why we are not progressing. And these are the details as to why we're not progressing. And if we don't know the details when we go to these places and we're appointed hoping for change, we will think that, oh, we're just being met by unordinary forces. But no, we want you to understand that these forces have been normalized in Liberia so that we are keeping our people impoverished. We're keeping our people malnourished. We're keeping our people from their rights, their needs. So that when you get there, you should be an advocate for change. You should look at the system and say, okay, this is what was This is what was being talked about on Focus on Liberia. And these are the right ways in which I can go about to advocate for change, right? We don't come and sit on here just to talk. We come and sit on here to inform you, to bring you that awareness, and to bring that voice of reasoning to the people, that at least when you get there, when it's your time to rule, when it's your time in a power position, do better. And when you do better, the country will move in the right direction for success. So, George, if you're still in the background, if we don't have any calls, then we can close out the show with Mr. Eastman cueing the music.
Yep. Don't forget, we are all Liberians.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. United are we one. Liberia, oh. United are we one. Liberia, Liberia.